Sound? Sound good? Sound all right? Check, check, check. It's probably covered up with the other window. It's probably covered up with the window. As long as we get a signal coming through up there, we're good. You see it? Did you pop on it for a sec? See it bouncing? Okay. Well, welcome everybody. It's so lovely to have you all here on a nice Sunday afternoon. It's gorgeous outside. It threatened to rain and do some other stuff, but now it's just gorgeous out there. Everything's good? We got to keep an eye on that. I don't know why that thing shut off. It shouldn't have shut off. I had the settings on there, but if it shuts off, we'll have to just switch. I've got a wide shot up there on the one GoPro, and I thought I had it to where it just stays on, because you're not actually recording with the GoPro. I'm just using it as a camera. So sometimes it shuts off. Anyways, so we've been talking about words. Are you guys ready? Got your pens? Got your pads? Your papers? Now, Chris, you just need a book, buddy. It's on video. You can download it later.
I take notes. I got to write things down because then I remember things better when I write things down.
And I will continue to make the disclaimer. Listen, I'm teaching out of 30 plus years of what I've been taught on. And I am not conventional. At one time, I was offered and encouraged to go to Berea to study to be a pastor, to get ordained. I talked to the Lord about that, and he said, I ordained you. I went, okay. So I guess I don't go do that. But one of the things he didn't want me in that system. Not that there aren't good people in bad systems, but those religious systems where you're just part of the cogs in a wheel. And so I've been on this journey for a long, long time. Like I said, 30 plus years. I'm 48, I'll be 49 this year. I've been studying since I was, what do you say, Mom, 13, 14, 15? By the time I could drive and had my own job, I was buying my own books. In fact, let's do that. Go to a man cave shot real quick, Ma. I'm going to grab a stack for you guys, just because it's fun. This is what we call a visual aid.
There's more in my office.
Yes, there are. So I'm going to set these right here. So these are just a few of the study books that I have. Did you want one, Chris? This is my King James NIV parallel Greek and English translation. So this is a New Testament that has this has King James, NIV, and then the Greek literal text with the translation underneath it. This one has a couple of my bookmarks in it. This is my Greek-English lexicon by Lindell and Scott. Lexicons are great. Love them. A lexicon is it's basically a translation dictionary. Think of it that way, as a lexicon. I'm sure somebody can look up the word lexicon and find exactly. Oh, how'd you slip in there? 1984. Got to study that stuff too. George Orwell. This is the Nag Hamadi Scriptures. If you've never studied them, I encourage you to do that. The Nag Hamadi Scriptures and the Dead Sea Scrolls. Nag Hamadi are considered Gnostic Gospels. They are not only are they not in the canon, but they are considered, a lot of them considered to be apostasy.
Are those the ones that were not put in with the Catholic Church?
No, that would be some of the Dead Sea Scrolls, some of the pseudography, scriptures, the false scriptures. The Nag Hamadi was that's where they were found. So they're the Gnostic Gospels. And the Gnostics, Gnostic means knowledge, the Gnostics had a different take and version of Christianity that they followed. There's a lot of different ideas. You have to be very, you have to ask a lot of wisdom before you dive into that pool. It gets deep, and you got to watch for stuff, but it's not impossible. I did not. No, these are what I went to. This is my Hebrew and English lexicon, the Old Testament. This one's beautiful because it's just,
Now, what is that book?
this is another lexicon, but this is the Hebrew lexicon. So it's basically a dictionary. It's a dictionary of Hebrew with English definitions. This one I really like. I bought a number of years ago. This is my Archaeological study Bible. So it's written in NIV, but it's a historical archaeological, and I love it because you get an extreme amount of context. So there'll be a passage of scripture here, and they'll put in a whole article on where that was set, what was going on at that time, the different ideas, and it's just replete with just all sorts of explanations, any other historical information that they could have. They included that in there. Old Standard, Strong's Concordance. I actually have 3 of them. This is the exhaustive, but it's not the full size. I have the full size that's in this size right here. This is Young's Analytical Concordance. So it's a very good reference, another reference. I've got a couple other references in there I didn't grab just because that was a big stack to bring in. I've used some commentaries. The problem is I found a lot of the commentaries were based in a lot of biases. And I try to... Biases. A lot of bias.
Oh, okay.
And I try to stay away from... when I'm studying, I don't want... If I was just regurgitating what somebody else thought, that's fine. But when I'm studying, I don't want your opinion. I want as straight information as you can give me, and give me the caveats when you do inject, say, I don't really know about this fully, but from what I've studied, I've gained this. Okay, great. Then now you're giving me, but when you give me your straight up take on it, and your take is obviously curtailed by your set of beliefs and influences and upbringings and all those parameters, and you don't make that apparent and just dole it out as if it's that. As if that's it. I don't like to say, most people say, if you just dole it out like it's gospel. Well, we're abusing that word. Right. So I've had, I think I have Matthew Henry's comment.
That's the only one.
That's a good one. And there's a number of other ones that are out there, and they have some good information. And I study a ton. I listened to 6 podcasts today while I was working around here getting ready for stuff. One whole video was that the real Jesus never existed. Whole 2-hour thing on their evidence and their facts and how they are assimilating this. And then I listened to 2 of them. Another one on 2-part thing on the Holy Grail and a bunch of other stuff. And so I'm just constantly, whatever the information is, it doesn't matter to me. I really enjoyed that Jesus doesn't exist because there was a lot of cool information. You read between the lines, okay? There's a lot of cool information in there. Just about they were coming at it from perspective as we don't have any historical evidence. And I go, okay. And they did mention the library at Alexander burning down. And I go, okay, well, that was a perfect opportunity for anybody out there. Whenever you want to change a society, you burn the books. So, very interesting. Anyways, I'll get into more of that. This is my Interlinear Bible. This is one of the first, this isn't the actual copy. I've bought a new one since. So this is a newer one. But this is my Interlinear Bible. And this is, so I have this New Testament one here. So this is a parallel New Testament with the Greek with 2 translations. This one, if you see how big it is and how tiny it is, look at that. Yeah, it's like reading glasses. I almost have to have the whole magnifying glass thing. This is by far one of my favorites because it has the Greek, or the Strong's Concordance numbers for the Greek and the Hebrew and the Aramaic. It also has, well, not the Aramaic. That one doesn't have Aramaic, just the Greek and the Hebrew. But this one has the Strong's reference numbers, so I can go right from this word. But also over here it has the most literal translation they could give it. And if I could have a whole Bible, they're probably out there, but if I could have a whole Bible that just has a literal translation, and I was familiar with that because there's so many times they're adding words to make them more palatable to English-speaking people. And when they add those words, you distort sometimes, a lot of times, the information without necessarily a malicious intent, but you distort the information. It's one thing if I teach you a word in a foreign language, and then I teach you the context or a sentence in that foreign language, but you don't have the fullness because you weren't brought up in that area. So what I want you to give me is the purest definition you can come up with of that word in that language and give it to me in a way that I can understand it. So when I read the literal translation in there, it just becomes phenomenal. I may pull that over here. I have to grab another podium, but those are just some of them. And now, if you looked at the tabs I have one web browser on the computer that's really just dedicated to my studying. And so I've got 6 different main tabs that I go to, but I also go in there and study a lot of times and break it down. One of my favorites is for online references, the Blue Letter Bible. So Blue Letter Bible goes into, and I've used that many times teaching here already, and I've used it for years. But Blue Letter Bible has a lot of good resources in it, as far as it's tied to the Strong's Concordance, it ties to Thayer's Lexicon. Now see, it ties to Thayer's, but this is, I always forget, it's Gesenius. Genesis, see, I can't even pronounce it. Anyways, that's William, the guy who did it. It's based on his lexicon, and then it was actually translated by Edward Robinson. But then my other lexicon, as I said before, is a Lindell and Scott. They use the Thayer's in here, which is fine. You get all right, so that stupid camera shut off after I had to fight with it all day. So you can't use the wide shot. You just have to go to the man cave shot or the tight podium shot, Mom. Anyways, it's so important to have all of these different resources because then you get a whole picture. When you start to dive into the different, even just one passage can start to take on so many different contexts or ideas just when you switch from one translation. And I'm going to read you an example here, and it's pretty straight up, but we'll go to James chapter 3. This is where we're going to predominantly be today, and we'll jump around as things come to me. But we're going to predominantly stay in James chapter 3, and I want to dig into this, and I want to really focus on a couple things here in James chapter 3 about words, because this passage is pretty well known, okay, about words. But we're going to dive into a couple specific words because you guys were talking a little bit before we went live today, and we talked about a little bit of cussing. And one of the things we do on the podcast is we talk about, we have this old disclaimer, we say Merry Christmas and one nation under God, we salute our troops, give thanks to our troops, give salute to our flag, and if this offends you, you can leave. And then I haven't done it recently, but I need to get back to my caveat. I said we also drink adult beverages, we cuss, we don't curse, and we have a lot of fun. And so I want to tap into that a little bit because I was brought up around a lot of cussers, okay? But they were generally very happy people. And so it's one thing, what I want to focus on today is less about the outward things that people always focus on, okay? And more on the inward things, the heart, and deal with that aspect of it, because most church people would go, well, cussing's bad, cussing's bad. Okay, but you just said 15 negative things out of your mouth and didn't even think about them. You didn't have a conscious thought of all the things you just cursed in your own life or in other people's lives. You didn't think about that at all. Well, here's the thing, Carol. Find me one spot where it talks about cussing in Scripture. Yeah, the overflow of the heart, the mouth speaks. What it does talk about is coarse language. That's one of the only references. My whole point on that, and we'll get into it in more detail when we read through this, is once again in the church, because we don't understand definitions, they'll say, I had a great conversation the other day about taking the Lord's name in vain. And he says, well, when I say Jesus Christ or God plus damn in an angry situation, and I go, yes, we've been taught in church that's taking the Lord's name in vain. I said, but that's not. I said, if a woman marries a man and takes his last name and then sleeps around town with all these other guys, she took his name in vain. But when we're sincerely trying to serve Christ and cuss every once in a while, especially in a difficult situation like the caveats you guys made, okay? That's what we focus in on, because we've been taught to point fingers, one at other people and one at ourselves, over things that are outward, and never deal with the heart things. Never deal with what's really going on. There's so much baggage. In fact, I was talking with the Lord about this today, and he gave me the word overburden. Now, I'm in construction, so I know what overburden is. When we dig a hole to put in a house, we dig a hole to put in a new basement. All that dirt is called overburden. It's extra material. And we either spread it around the yard or it gets hauled away. When we were doing the gym down here, there was a ton of dirt taken out of the ground to get that whole basement foundation in. I'm using the word a ton of dirt. There were several tons, like several trucks full of tonnage that were hauled out of there. And what we've done, because we don't have a good command of language and we don't understand authority, is that we've so focused on what's being removed, the overburden, that we don't focus on the foundation being laid, the new structure going in. We focus only on what has to be, what we should get rid of and what we should remove. And that's why I've gone seasons in my life where I worked really, 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 really hard at not cussing. And you know what it got me? Now, that doesn't mean that I don't try to curtail myself and I don't try to modulate things. But what I came out of those seasons in my life and I went, you know what, Lord? If I just live and try and work hard at being a blessing and not cursing other people, then those little words, I've said off-color jokes, okay, that had no cuss words in them at all, that took more air out of the room than if I'd have dropped an F-bomb. This is my point, is we don't pay attention to words, we pay attention to these 6 to 8 words that the FCC has told us are bad words. Yet if we walk into Australia, maybe one of those is a bad word. And I don't even do that anymore. I teach my grandkids, I say that's an adult word. That's a word that you don't have the maturity to handle the usage of it. I was around it for years in my one side of my family. Okay, but I understood. You don't say that yet. Okay. So anyways, we'll get into more detail on that. Because it bothers some people, and I understand that, and I get that. But I also understand the vast majority of people don't really care. And I've had to tell people. They're around me, and they go, oh, sorry, preacher. They say something, and they go, sorry, preacher. And I go, I don't care. They go, really? I go, dude, I want to know you. I want to know your heart. You saying a cuss word, I don't know your background. Maybe you were verbally abused as a kid, and that's your normal expression. Maybe you were just around that environment, and it's so ingrained in you that if you spent the next 20 years trying to uproot that thing, you'd miss all this other stuff. If you would haul off that little bit of dirt because you dug a hole to plant a tree, and you're like, where am I going to put this dirt? Where am I going to put the dirt? I got to get rid of this dirt. This dirt's got to go over here, and the tree's over here wilting and dying in the sun because it needed to be put in the hole that you dug, watered, filled back in, fertilized, and pruned and taken care of. But we're focused on this little bit of dirt over here that we had to take out to get the hole dug. And so many times I've had this discussion. They go, dude, well, you're justifying that, or you're justifying. No, I'm not. I literally don't care. I choose not to cuss on this because that's been my practice. Even though I've said a couple cuss words that are milder on these broadcasts. I do that because I know some people have a problem with it. The difference between being honest and being a hypocrite is I don't hide it. I'm just censoring myself for you. If I was hiding it and acted like I didn't do it, and there's too much of that going on in the church too, where they act like, oh, we never do this, we never do that, we never do this, and I go, BS, and I say the word. And it's amazing the times that I've been in the back offices with a multitude of ministers, and I go, okay. I'm listening to the words flying out, and I'm going, okay. But you didn't let on in the service that you were a full-range person. Now you're a full-range person, okay. Now you're full range. All right. See, I'm full range. But I work very hard at not cursing. I've worked hard at not cussing, and I still had negative, degrading things coming out of my mouth towards people. You ask the guys that I skate with, is Jeremy a happy guy? Is he positive? Does he get negative? Does he get negative really at all? No, he's happy all the time. Even though when a goal goes in that I think I should have gotten, I might drop an F-bomb. You know? And then I go, all right, guys, let's not do that again. They skate over and they go, oh, man, that's my bad. And I go, yeah, you suck. Now don't do that again. And we all laugh. You know? Because we've got too much stuff in this life to worry about these certain things and then have no command over the language we've been given. That's my problem, is we don't have command over the language. And yet we're worried about a few words, a handful of words. We're so focused on that. And that's one of the things the church has taught us to do, to be mindful of sin, hell, and what if you went to hell, and what if you did this, and we don't even... That's why I taught it at, week 2, week 3? We don't even know what these words mean. The general people in church don't even know what the word means. Repentance, sin. You guys came in asking me, what word today? And I've been meditating on it since we took off Mother's Day last week. I've been meditating on this. And I said, well, Lord, I really... And I want to get into this idea in James because I want you to see there's so much more that we need to deal with. How we approach, how we interact with people. I gauge people. When I get into certain people's presence, I gauge. Can they handle cuss words? Can they handle these words? You know, when I get around, just to be frank, when I get around certain people of darker skin ethnicities, I know my parameters of what we can have a conversation about. When I get around people of other ethnicities, I know my parameters just as much as I know cussing won't work with this person, but they'll work with this person. Cussing doesn't work with that person. Hey, you know what? I pierced my ears when I was 19, okay? I wanted to do it. There was nothing else in society that really pushed me. I just liked it. I was like, cool, I'm gonna pierce my ear, right? And I asked the Lord, so I make a frequent practice of this. I said, Lord, I'd like to pierce my ears. I said, what's, is that okay? And this is what he said to me. He said, if it ever becomes a problem, I'll tell you. I went, okay, pierce my ears. And I've literally had people not hear what I'm saying because they're staring at these earrings. I'm talking to them about Jesus. I'm talking to them about life. I'm talking about, hope and peace and everything like that, and they're staring at my ears. And the Lord goes, you might as well have been talking to them in parables. They weren't going to get it. I go, it's amazing. How focused we are on things we don't deal with our own hearts. See, just as much as I cuss and I talk about it and I can tell you where I'm coming from on it, I still work on my heart in every area of my life. And I go, you need to ease off a little bit. You're a little carried away there. I go, I know, you know? But I've done the same thing with cussing as I've done with questionable jokes, right? Or I'm teasing a buddy of mine. I'm not talking about prepared jokes where you know it's a bad joke, you know it's right before you even say it. But I'm talking about like you're teasing a buddy, you're all in a big group and you're teasing one of your buddies and you say something and you go, I think that cut a little too deep. That went from friend to, hey, easy there, buddy. You know, first cut's the deepest. I don't know. Anyways, have I given you enough time to get to James 3? Plenty of time? Are you sure? Okay. I don't need these to read the computer, but I will need them to read the. Okay, so from the NIV, let's read I'm going to read the first sentence for you guys, and let's deal with this, okay? So, not many of you should become teachers, my fellow believers, because you know that we who teach will be judged more strictly. Okay, so not many of us should be teachers. And if I read that, I go, man, I cuss a little bit. I probably shouldn't be a teacher anymore. I should quit teaching because I cuss a little bit. So let me put my glasses on and read this. That was the current NIV off the web, but this one, all right. Let me read it to you again. Not many of you should become teachers, my fellow believers, because you know that we who teach will be judged more strictly. Okay? Here's the 1972, or 70, I didn't want to look it up. This is an older NIV, 73, sorry, copyright 73. Okay. Not many of you should presume to be teachers, my brothers, because you know that we who teach will be judged more strictly. So close, right? But it says, not many of you should become teachers. In the current translation, this translation says, not many of you should presume to be teachers. This one says, my fellow believers. This one says, my brothers. And then the next continuing line, because you know that we who teach will be judged more strictly. And this one is pretty much exactly the same. But you see, between the NIV, depending on the time of its revision, there's a difference. So what is it? Is it brothers or believers? That's quite a big difference between brothers or believers, and it has a different connotation. If it says believers, now we've made it a broad spectrum, which is what the NIV tries to do and in my opinion fails. But we're just going to make this broad, like this is talking to everybody in the world, every English-speaking person. We want to have a translation that really speaks to them. This was written, James wrote this to a specific group of people. And if we don't get the context that he wrote it to a specific group of people, then you don't get the context of what he was writing about to those people and then filter it and understand it. So, not many of you should presume to be teachers, and not many of you should become teachers. Now, check this out. Here's the King James. My brethren. Oh, so we're back to we're at the brethren, right? We're not at brothers or believers. Not many masters. Or he says, my brothers, be not many masters. Well, wait a minute. This one says teachers twice. One says presume to be. The other one says become. This one says masters. Okay. Knowing that we shall receive greater condemnation. New King James. My brethren, let not many of you become teachers, knowing that we shall receive a stricter judgment. This is the same one single verse from two different NIVs, King James and the New King James. Do you see how important it is to figure out words? I just read 4 different passages, And if I was an unscrupulous, dishonest person, I can pick out whatever passage of Scripture I want from whatever translation I want to manipulate. And that's what's going on in the church. Whether through malicious intent or ignorance or their own self-deception, people are teaching what they want to teach. There are times that I look at this and I go, oh, that didn't say what I expected it to say. I have to be honest with the text. I have to teach from that idea. Versus twisting it into my own ideas. But we don't think about this stuff. We don't think about how important words are. Is it masters? Is it teachers? Is it judge strictly or stricter judgment? Or is it condemnation, greater condemnation? Do we even know what those words mean? How are those drinks? So I'm going to look at a couple of these right here. So the word masters here, it's translated master 40 times, teachers 10 times, master 7 times, master as far as capital master of Jesus, okay? And doctor once. So they translate it as master here, but it really has the idea of teacher. But look at it from this perspective. They translate it as not many of you should presume to be teachers. That's this NIV. The other NIV says not many of you should become teachers. But if we go back to the original, let me hit my back button on this one. Right. Okay. And go back. I want that word right there. So he says, be not many masters or teachers, but masters is the more predominant word, okay? It doesn't have the word presume in there. It doesn't have the word, how'd this one say it? Become is the other, yeah. Not many of you should presume. It says, be not many masters, okay? That's the context. Not many masters, not many teachers. And a side note, you really have to understand the context of where they were at in Jewish society coming into Christian society, okay? There were times when parents just gave their children over to the rabbis to have them, they became their children. And they would continue to support them. It's like not the Montessori, that's a different style of schooling, but it was literally where you gave your children to the rabbis to teach them. So when we read about teachers, we don't, that's why they can interchange the word teacher and master and have it still fit, okay? And why you've got to dig in even deeper to the translation. I'm going to go into this deeper translation real quick, just so you guys, so we have the clarification. And it's also context too. So in the Thayers here, a teacher, I'm going to read the next definition. Sorry. They have the word here from Thayers, and they say a teacher. In the New Testament, one who teaches. You can't do that. You can't give me a reference to how they translate it in the New Testament as part of the definition. You follow what I'm saying? If I translate a word in the New Testament, I can't use the justification for the word translation as part of the definition. If they give me I've said this before, if they give me a word in a different language that means tree, and our word is tree, then I want to hear a tall, wooden, living thing with leaves and this. I want to hear the description over here, and then I want them to, as best they can, give me the definition over here, and then I'll match them together. But you don't go, hey, this is the word for tree. Well, how do I know that you know that that's the word for tree if I can't compare definitions? If you just shortchanged me and just said, well, that word just means tree. Are you sure? Could mean bush. Could mean, scrub plant. Could mean whatever. What kind of tree? Are you following me? I hope so. Okay. So, one who is fit to teach. Where's the rest of this definition? It's not encompassing all of it. And they're using several definitions. All right, I'm going to go back. Anyways, so we're going to move on because you get the idea. Teacher, master, but the idea is that not many of you should be teachers because we'll be judged more strictly. So now I've got to look at that word again here. Greater condemnation. So we understand greater. It's megas. Megas, where we get mega. Not maga, even though I like that one. But megas in the Greek. Okay. So the word condemnation here, we're going to look this up. It's krima. Krima. That's the transliteration. It'd be if I said it to you in the Greek alphabet. Now I'm losing my Greek alphabet. Wasn't my point. A decree, a judgment. Judgment. Condemnation for wrong, the decision, whether severe or mild, which one passes on others for faults. Okay, that is definitely a definition. But what I want you to understand as well, and I want to see where it's at. I'm going to show this all. Click on this one. Oh, that's what they did. I praise these guys for having the Thayer's Lexicon, and they've must have been this week. No, they've got Thayer's Lexicon, and all of the information in there is literally the Strong's definition. They even say, it literally says Thayer's Greek Lexicon, Strong's, and it's in a different font too, so they must have updated stuff. I had two of my other Bible sites that I normally go to that wanted me now to sign up, give my email and sign up in order to be able to access stuff, and I wanted to access stuff even deeper. They offered different payment plans. I'm like, wow, okay. Sites I've used for years, now all of a sudden it's tight for money. It's like when we used to go to, when I went to Promise Keepers a couple different times. It's free, everybody go, everything like that. They took up offerings, everything like that. And next thing I know, well, it's gonna cost this much. Well, if you come out with the model at the beginning, don't change it up in the middle after you've gotten people accustomed to stuff. Anyways, their prerogative, whatever. I'm not going to use them. I got a few things. They're just not online. I'm looking for the definition. Okay, here's one. So, again, a decree. This is the definition in Thayer's, and I'm hoping this is Thayer's, but it's literally a judgment. And I'm going to look up that word here in a second. The second definition they have here is judgment, i.e. condemnation of wrong, the decision, whether severe or mild, which passes on. That's what they have in the up there. Okay. So they're saying that a judgment is only condemnation of giving wrong. Now, again, this is circular definitions. There's circular reasoning, this is circular definitions. I'm looking up the word translated condemnation, krima, okay? It's translated condemnation. They say, well, it means a decree or a judgment, and judgment means a condemnation. So did I get a definition? You just said, well, condemnation means, it's the Greek word krima, and that means a judgment, and judgment means a condemnation. Okay. Well, we're gonna do this. So I've got two different references I love to do. I go to Webster's 1828, okay, and I also go to my other one here. Where's it at? Where are you at? Right there. Etymology Online. I don't even like giving you guys my definitions. I know what they mean, but I'll have you look them up. We'll look them up. I'll read them to you. You can look them up. So judgment from, first I'll go to etymology because that one's open. Judgment from the 13th century, okay? Mid-13th century. Action of trying at law, a trial. The capacity for making decisions. Does that sound like condemnation to you? Because last time I checked, if I go to court, I can get a judgment of guilty, not guilty, and that's just like civil stuff, or that's criminal stuff, okay? And there's also there's acquittals, right? Where they couldn't prove your case, but they're not going to declare you not guilty. They're just saying you didn't prove your case. You're acquitted, right? That's a vindication. We can look up that definition of what acquittal really entails. But you see how reading these definitions, it's condemnation, it's judged more strictly, it's everything like that. Yet this says action of trying at law, trial, capacity for making decisions, to judge. Now, you come down later and it says a penalty imposed on the court. Okay? Let me look up the Webster's here. We'll double check this one. Webster's from 1828. Judgment, noun, the act of judging. The act or process of the mind of comparing its ideas to find their agreement and disagreement, or to assent to a certain truth, ascertain truth, or the process of examining facts and arguments to ascertain propriety and justice, or the process of examining the relations between one proposition or another. Judgment just means you have the capacity to compare some things and make a comparison.
Was that condemnation or was that judgment?
That's judgment. We'll go to condemnation in a minute. Because again, they use the word condemnation in the King James as the translation. When you look up that word krima, the Strong's Concordance says judgment. The second definition, judgment. The first definition was a decree. A decree, second definition, a judgment. Well, we already know that they used in the NIV, both NIVs and the New King James, judged more strictly. So I'm veering away from that. We're going to look up that word condemnation real quick, but I'm veering away from the word condemnation as our base definition because we have judgment here, judgment there, judgment there. Judged, judge. Is that on? No. Flip your switch on the bottom.
Okay. Judgment could also, because the Bible says to judge all things, but it also says judge not. So I take that as discernment.
Correct.
Okay.
Correct. So here's what we're getting to, okay? So, and I got to look up the word, we'll look up condemnation, just for the sake of doing it. Got to go to this one. I'm going to do that from etymology because it'll give me a good breakdown. The point I want to get to before we move on in this passage, and I haven't even cracked it yet. Condemnation. Strong censure. It's from Latin in the late 14th century. I'm going to click on that one. It's a noun of action, just says the act of condemning, domination. So if I do condemning, we know what condemn generally means. Condemn. To blame or censure. Pronounce a judgment against. Okay? So now, according to judgment from these definitions. Now, here's what we have to work at. They're translating a word, krima, as judgment. But then they're inserting their assumed definition of what they believe judgment means. To condemn, let me read that definition. Condemnation of wrong, a decision, whether mild or severe, which one passes on the faults of others. But when we go over to what judgment, see, it says judgment, and then it gives you kind of the definition of judgment so that you can compare the definitions, right? But then when you go back to Judgment 18:28, it says the act of judging, the act or process of the mind in comparing its ideas to find their agreement or disagreement and to ascertain truth, or the process of examining facts and arguments to ascertain propriety and justice, or the process of examining the relationship between one proposition and another. Doesn't sound like condemnation to me. Doesn't sound like guilt. Again, from the 13th century judgment, the act of trying at law, trial, the capacity to make decisions. Okay? It's where we get a judge from, judgment. So when we go back and we begin to read this again, with the idea that we're just talking about this, not many of you should presume to be teachers because many of you don't have the power to compare things. Many of you are not judging properly. This is what I want to clarify this, because if we go down the rest of the passage and we talk about the tongue without understanding that he's really laying it out, and he's saying, my brethren, let not many of you be teachers, knowing that you will receive a stricter judgment. No. That's not what it says in the text. That's not what the Greek is coming forth with. It just says that again, here, if I read it from this one, from Webster's, okay? Not many of you should be teachers, my brothers, knowing that we shall receive the act or process of the mind in comparing ideas to find an agreement or disagreement, to ascertain the truth, or the process of examining facts and arguments to ascertain propriety and justice. James starts out this whole letter telling them they should pray for wisdom. If anyone lacks judgment, or anyone lacks wisdom, let him ask for wisdom. When you go through James, they really call James the Proverbs of the New Testament, okay? And he's really dissecting a lot of rudimentary, fundamental things. And he's going, I'm laying out these simple... he gets to chapter 4, it's another one of my favorite passages. He says, what causes fights and quarrels among you? Don't they come from the desires of battle within you? Well, if these guys were teachers, they would have had that concept already. They would have gotten this. So what I want you to realize is mistranslation, misunderstanding of this, because we translate from where we're at. We translate stuff from where we're at. In dictionaries and definitions, but also in life. Okay? If somebody says something to you, but you've had a wound and a hurt in your life, and the way they said it reminds you of that wound and hurt, you will interpret their actions according to your wound and hurt. And it may have absolutely nothing to do with your wound and hurt, but because you're wounded and hurted, you interpret it that way. So you took their words, who were coming from a totally different place, but because they were similar or in the same contextual framing in your mind, you took their words in a negative connotation. I had somebody send me something earlier today through Messenger, and I read through it, and it was basically a poem, and I said, okay. And I literally texted him back, and I said, I don't know how to take this. Is this a poem about being bitter and angry about stuff? Or is this a poem about not worrying about external things and that life is, family is more important? And it was that family was more important, but I had to clarify. Because I can't hear your tone and your inflection when you're reading it to me, And it was, I said, okay, cool. All right, I get it. My daughter went to the zoo, I guess, with the kids. She sent me pictures. So I'm going to read through this now. And I'll visit this back again to refresh us, okay? But the way they're framing this context to start off this whole passage puts it in an absolute narrow tone when it's not. Once again, it's not. Judgment is not a bad thing. You said it exactly right, Carol. Discernment. Being able to look at two things and go, you know what? When we walk into the store, we walk up to the produce, we go, I'll take that one. There's something about that head of lettuce I don't like. This one's okay. Somebody else comes in and goes, grab that head of lettuce. They don't care. But you discerned, you made a judgment. Does that mean that head of lettuce is going to hell? And that one went to the heavenly counter to make, your salad or whatever it is? But that's our, they want it. See, we already talked about this, right? Do not be conformed any longer to the pattern of this world, but be transformed by the renewing of your mind. Okay? And we dove into that quite a bit. And the whole idea is, what does it mean to be conformed to the pattern of this world? What does that mean? These are the type of concepts that we're looking at. They say, well, you don't do this, and you don't do that, and you don't do this, and you don't do that. And they're like, well, if you have an alcoholic beverage, that's conforming to the pattern of this world. I got church people that would condemn you all day long because you had an adult beverage. Worse than if you cussed. Okay? I got buddies of mine that have cigars. All right? I've enjoyed cigars in my past. And they're pretty tasty. I've had some good cigars. No, good smelling ones. And some of that good pipe smoke, that pipe tobacco, some cherry Cavendish and stuff like that. Once again, a condemnable offense. Yet they walk around with that negative, angry face on all the time, looking for a reason to point out how bad you are. And I go, dude, you think that I'm the one heading to hell? You're already living in hell because you're so consumed with judging everybody else and cursing everybody else and looking down on everybody else. You're miserable. I'm happy. And I'm trying to be happier and enjoy myself more and more each day, right? Am I working on stuff? Yes. Listen to this. Okay, so I want you to give the context. I'm reading that first sentence there, and I want you to go, this is not a negative passage. This is a positive passage. This is a life-giving passage. It's instructing you about life, okay? And when you do that, they call it, in psychology, we call it reframing, okay? Well, when you give the context that it's negative and you go, wait a minute, I can look at this better. I can put this in a new frame, all right? I can reframe it. Chris and I were talking this a week ago, and I said, well, you can look at it that. I said, we can all look at it this way. I said, but you can also, you go through it and have a whole bunch of difficulty in a day, and you go, Lord, what the hell? And you go, yeah, but you didn't realize this situation and that situation and this thing. That was a teaching moment, and this was a teaching moment. And then you reflect back on it and you go, oh yeah, I did learn. I did learn this, and I learned that. And if I focus more on that learning aspect and I reframe it so that it becomes a positive dynamic in my life instead of the negative dynamic, then you go, oh, right? Thank you. The Lord just said, he says, you got cut off in traffic and you're pissed off about it. And you're like, oh, that, like that. And a quarter mile later, you all drove by a cop. And if that person, which isn't what you called them 10 seconds ago, hadn't cut you off, you'd have been flying about 10 miles an hour faster and probably attracted some attention you didn't want. And the Lord goes, see, you've got to take these things in perspective. And our words are so powerful. Okay, so I'm going to read this. My brethren, not many of you should presume to be teachers, knowing that we shall receive a stricter judgment. We've dealt with that, okay? Listen to this. For we all stumble in many things. Is that a negative or a positive? It's a neutral fact. It's a neutral fact. We all stumble at many things. I trip going upstairs more than I don't remember falling downstairs. I've tripped and fell upstairs. I don't know about you. I'm going, catch my toe, boom, going downstairs, I'm like, no, this is pretty easy. So, straight statement. We all stumble at many things. If anyone does not stumble in word, he is a perfect man, able also to bridle the whole body. Indeed, we put bits in horses' mouths. When you've been studying an NIV for 25 years, well, 20 years before the New King James came out. This is why I trip up. When we put bits in the mouths of horses to make them obey us, we can turn the whole animal. Okay? Indeed, we put bits in horses' mouths that they may obey us, and we turn their whole body. They're just moving the words around a little bit, and it throws me completely off because I'm like, dude. All right, I'm going to the NIV. Well, suffer through it. Okay. When we put bits in the mouths of horses to make them obey us, we can turn the whole animal. Or take ships as an example. Although they are so large and are driven by strong winds, they are steered by a very small rudder wherever the pilot wants to go. Likewise, the tongue is a small part of the body, but it makes great boasts. So note that one, great boasts, okay? Consider what a great forest is set on fire by a small spark. The tongue also is a fire, a world of evil among its parts. And we're going to look up that word evil. A world of evil among the parts of the body. It corrupts the whole person, sets the whole course of his life on fire, and is itself set on fire by hell. And I have one of my notes in here. That word is actually Gehenna. You ever been to the dump? We used to go to the dump to see the bears when I was a kid in the UP. And every once in a while, the dump would be accidentally or on purpose set on fire. And there would be fires burning in the dump. That's actually what that means. That word hell there, when they say set on fire by hell. And some people don't know that right below the cross, the skull, was Gehenna. There was a dump right below it. Because it was easy if there were criminals that in their bodies weren't clean, they could just throw them off into the dump and they would, you know. Anyways, all kinds of animals, birds, reptiles, creatures of the sea are being tamed and have been tamed. Now this, I started out this conversation and I went through this whole thing about the difference between cursing and cussing, okay? When I read this for real and I got this, okay? That's what, it just set me free to not, I'm thinking about this and I'm thinking about that and I'm worried about this and I'm worried about that. And the reality is, I'm not a perfect man. We all stumble at some point. So what am I going to stumble at? Am I going to stumble at the big stuff to where I don't give my grandson a kiss and a hug and love on him? He came up to me the other day. He's just bopping around here doing stuff like that. And I was doing around stuff and he just came up and goes, Grandpa, I need a hug. I said, well, get some. And we just hugged. I didn't stumble at that. So he heard me drop an F-bomb because I'm over here talking. So he heard me say other colorful metaphors and four-letter words. But that boy knows he's loved. And he knows that Grandpa's here for him. And he'll swat him on the ass when he needs it, and he'll give him a great big hug when he doesn't need it. Or when he does need it. And that's my point. We're all going to stumble at something. We're all stumbling. So what are you focused on? Are we focused on this little thing over here? Whatever your bent is, whatever your proclivity, whatever your main stumbling thing is, get it out in the open. Let it be known. Get it out there. Dude, listen, I stumble at cussing. You want to know what else I stumble at? I'm not a good finisher. I can start projects, but I need help finishing projects. I make that very clear, especially to the guys who work for me. I'm like, look, I got the vision. I'm going to get this started. I'm going to show you how to do it, and I'm going to do this. And about halfway through, I'm going to lose all enthusiasm for this stuff, and I'm going to move on. Okay? I'm going to be down the road. So when I tell them, in fact, they were talking about it on Tony's podcast the other night. Heather was like, yeah, Jeremy talks about he's not a finisher, and I'm really getting that idea in myself that I need people to help me finish stuff because I don't like to finish. You know, it's not even that I don't like to finish. My mind's already down the road. I'm already doing something else. You know, that's part of my. Well, why can't you just finish that? It's done up here. To go back is. Do you know what it means to be hindered in forward motion? That's the definition of retarded. Hindered in forward. You're hindering my forward motion if I got to go backwards and now actually finish what is already done up here in my mind. I've moved on. I'm sorry, I'm down the road. You know what I need? I need somebody to go in there and actually finish it because I already see it in my head. When I walk by it, I go, oh, that whole room in there. I hung the last of the drywall today, and I'm like, it's already mudded, painted, and I already got a shelf up there. It's already mudded, painted, and I got a shelf up there. But you know what? I may have to go through the motions myself of doing it if I can't get somebody to help me. Pay somebody to help me. Do something. I was talking to my tile guy the other day, and I said, dude, I tiled all this stuff in the back, and I did a whole bunch of tile. There's just a small, 10 by 15, not even 10, 8 by 15 section of floor that we haven't finished the grout. Why? Because I've moved on. I'm like, there's a bunch of tile over here. There's some tile needs to be put on over there. Tile needs to be put on, and I've moved on.
You have vision.
Exactly.
And when you have a vision,
yes,
you do you start the vision, and
yes,
then you need somebody else to finish that vision.
Absolutely.
And there's nothing wrong with any of that.
No, but that's what I'm saying is we get so focused on these negative, the overburden, the stuff, the little bit of stuff that we got to dig out and get rid of, that we don't get focused on, okay, we're going, well, I need to stop doing this. I need to stop this. This is a bad habit. This is a bad habit. This is a bad habit. I was talking the other day with somebody, and I said, you know, if you get busy going after your purpose, doing good stuff, you'd be amazed at how much that other stuff that you're struggling with just starts to work itself out. Because we all stumble at some point. And you know what? Words are the number one place we stumble. So get the ones that matter most, figure it out, work on those. Words like purpose, words like destiny, your faith, which are not as a cliche, not as a buzzword, but what does it really mean to you to be a believer? To have that trust factor, because that's really what it's talking about, you know? So let me finish. Here's the words that set me free. I got there. All right. But I'll read verse 7 again. All kinds of animals, birds, reptiles, creatures of the sea are being tamed or have been tamed by man. But no man can tame the tongue. It is a restless evil full of deadly poison. Now, we can look those words up too, because it's not as dramatic as they're translating it. But either way, if no man can tame the tongue, then what do I need? I need the Holy Spirit. I need a default. That's why the Lord, and we're going to finish up part 6 before I go on my fishing trip. Next week, we're going to really dive into some cool stuff. I'm going to talk about the Tower of Babel, the day of Pentecost, and talk about unity and what it really means and how powerful words are. So remember that. Write it down. It'll be fun. Anyways, you don't have to write it down. I just like saying that. Anyways.
I just want to mention something. When you said how powerful words are.
Yes, ma'am.
I was called something when I was younger about who I am.
Yep.
That still is in my mind.
A negative.
Oh, yeah, totally
Absolute negative.
And I walked in, and
Yeah.
they said it. They were talking to somebody on the phone.
Right.
And that word has never left my mind about who I am.
Right.
It's never gone away, even though I know it's not who I am.
Right.
But it's never gone away
Right.
because it had left such an impact on, because I was always trying to be this nice Christian girl, and I knew I wasn't. I was a new believer. I was a young believer in my 20s, but it left such an impact on who I was and
Right.
who I am. And I'm not that, but it just hit me so hard.
Absolutely.
It's never gone away.
And that's what I'm saying is the things that we discount or pass over are actually that much more impactful. We think, well, that cuss word's pretty bad. And I go, that little kid's been called a piece of garbage all his life, whether you use the cuss word or you called him a turd or you called him this or called him that. And you're worried about this benign, I'm using a benign cuss word. It wasn't directed. It was, hey, if I talk about a politician and I say he's an effing idiot, he probably is. I mean, I don't, anyways. So, again, no man can tame the tongue. Check this out. Now, here's the dichotomy. With the tongue we praise our Lord and Father, and with it we curse men. Oh, I just love Jesus, you sinner. And then we get it so ingrained that that's all we think about. Well, that person's a sinner. They got this person, that person. Dude, stop.
They haven't taken the log out of
Stop. Exactly. Exactly. You know what? Hey, go find the guy you despise the most. Go find. Oh, that was supposed to be.
I just noticed it says April 18th.
Oh, you know what?
We're in May. You guys are freaking me out.
I changed the date on the thing. I'm not going to worry about it. I changed the date on the thing, and it's not even supposed to have a date on it. Watch this. Bink. Bink. Bink.
Oh, there we go. Oh, there you go.
It was just black. I wanted to go with the color one again, and I'd taken the date off of it. So there you go. Sorry, Facebook land. It's so confusing. It says May, but this says April. All right. Where was I at? Now you really made me lose my train.
Just a side thing. But don't you like to see the finished product?
Yes, I do. I absolutely love to see it.
I know.
Here's the problem. Most of the time, I already do. It's already in my head.
Yeah, but you don't see it literally.
You know,
The vision, a person who has vision,
you got to.
sees it completely.
Like if this was half painted, wouldn't that bug you? Go, oh, it's not done.
Well, that half's not painted. That part's not painted.
Don't even get me started.
Oh, it bugs me. It bugs me, but
Don't, not that much. It's me annoyed too, but I want somebody else to do it.
well, it's not even wanting somebody else to do it. It literally, if I can muster the energy to finish it, I go, okay, I'm gonna get it done.
Just like I need a floor put in my bedroom. I have the floor.
Right.
I can't put it in.
Sure, you're using a microphone so they can hear you. I can hear you, Kim, but
But, I can't put it in, so I have to wait.
exactly, and that's my process. There's just there's many things that I do, but I know me. What, Carol?
When you were talking about not following the patterns of this world,
Yes.
I can't think of the phrase of following Christ.
Be not conformed any longer to the pattern of this world, but be transformed by the renewing of your mind.
So
Yes.
then what do you say transform is like just basically following Christ? And he's our example? Or what are you saying by that?
Yes, he is our example, but not the blonde-haired, blue-eyed pulpit Jesus of our modern-day churches. Talking about an active relationship where you're hearing the voice of God. I have been surprised so many times by the Lord's response to me. Now, you have to learn to hear the voice of God to the extent that he can surprise you, okay? Because you can't just start off and then hear some wacky thought and think, oh, that's God. And I go, no. You need to be grounded in your relationship before you can understand, right? So my wife and I have to get to know each other so that 10 years, 11 years down the road, I can nudge her, she can nudge me, and we're both looking at the same thing, and we both go, okay. Yeah, 12 next month. But we can nudge each other and know, and look at something and not say a thing, and both of us have the same thought about that thing because we know each other and we can nudge each other, okay? I was brought up non-active Christian, okay, for the first few years. Recovering Catholic, mom was. And then we started getting into church. She got married when I was 10, and then I walked into this environment where there was all these rules now, right? It wasn't on mom's side. Now it was on stepdad's side. There's all these rules now, okay? You don't wear a hat in church, and you don't do this, and you don't, cuss, even though, it was literally hammering on me about cussing. I'm like, wait a minute. I go over this side of the family. They don't say you have to cuss. They just cuss. They don't care. There's not a thought of, they just are talking, and that's part of their vernacular. Okay. They didn't have a conscious thought of, oh, you used a bad word. They were just having a conversation. These were guys that worked in the mines. These were guys that worked at prisons. I have uncles that worked in prisons. I have uncles that were carpenters. I had grandfathers and his buddies that were miners and gravel pit runners and all sorts of stuff. They're out there working. Move that stuff over there. Let's get that going. That's emphasis on a project that needs to happen, okay? My point is I came into this other side of the family, and there was like, oh, this rule. Long story short, one day we're in the one building we were in downtown when we started. We were downtown for about 2.5, 3 years when we were doing services down there. This was back in 2009, maybe 2010, and I wasn't doing worship, but I had music on, and there was several of us in our main sanctuary area. And I had the music on, and we're just in this deep worship. And it's already thick in there, the atmosphere, the presence of the Holy Spirit. And all of a sudden the Lord says, put your hat on. Remember that, Ma? The Lord told me to put my hat on. And I immediately, because I was wearing my fedoras. I got a bunch of fedoras. And I'd had my hat on, and I walked into the building, and as my custom, because that's what I was taught, took the hat off, put it on the piano, and did my thing, right? And the Lord says, put your hat on. And I went, and I looked back at my hat, and he goes, don't get religious with me, boy. Put your stinking hat on. And I went, oh. And I put my hat on, man, and I was drenched. I just got overwhelmed. And then I believe I put it on 2 or 3 other people. And they were not some showmanship BS garbage. It was literally put the hat on their head and had no expectation of what would happen and watch them drop to the floor. Okay? And then I can go through the whole detail and explain that to you. Okay? You ever known an alcoholic? And they can drink a pint of Jack Daniels a day, and you drink 2 shots, and you need somebody to drive you home? Well, it says, do not be drunk with wine, be filled with the Holy Spirit. Well, I can handle, as somebody who teaches and who's somebody who's doing this, I can handle a little bit more of the presence of God than other people. That's not an arrogant thing. That's a factual thing. An alcoholic can handle more alcohol than you if you're not an alcoholic, okay? So when I take my hat with the anointing on it and put it on somebody, I didn't go, all right, when I put my hat on you, I want you to fall. I'm praying for him, and the Lord goes, put your hat on him. And I went, I don't know what they're going to get. I've laid hands on hundreds of people. Some people stand there and just start weeping. Some people I don't care about your reaction other than it being genuine. Be genuine. I don't care. It's a whole rabbit trail. Point being is that I came into this family with all these restrictions and all these things, and I had to make a judgment about this. Not many of you should presume to be teachers. Why? Because you don't make judgments. You don't have a discernment. The tongue is what it is. Life and death are in the power of the tongue. So what are the words coming out of your mouth? Are they words that hang over a small child for the rest of her life so that she's scarred by that? And so we're focused on, that's what I had to get to. I'm like, no man can tame the tongue. And I go, okay, Lord, then you know what? I'm going to stop worrying about how much I cuss. And I'm going to start worrying about how much I curse. Because it didn't say anything about cussing in there. It said cursing. With the same tongue we bless our Lord and Father, and with the same tongue we curse men. And I go, I may cuss, but I don't want to curse anybody. Amen. I don't want to put anybody down. I don't want to belittle somebody. I've done it. I stood on my porch in my old house years ago, and I belittled this person. And I brought this little girl to tears because she dared to have an issue with me. And I was right. I was the right, what she was saying to me was wrong, and I was in the right as far as the situation. But what I did to her, and how I belittled her, and I criticized her, and made her feel small, brought her to tears, I walked away from that, and the Lord said, that's cursing somebody, and I don't ever want to see you do it again. And I said, then you got to help me, because no man can tame this tongue. I'm a man. I can't even tame my own tongue. It's a little rudder that's putting my boat over here in the rocks. It's doing all this other stuff. And he said, okay, we're going to work on that. And I went down that avenue, and I started down that road, and I started focusing on, the cussing. And he said, stop focusing on the little stuff. The cussing, if we go to Australia right now, if we go to England right now, they don't censor themselves like we do here in America. You know why? Because they're talking. It's just part of the vernacular. Now, do we know people that get carried away? Yes, absolutely. But I'll tell you this, I know people in my life that speak of, I can't use the word, who overuse slang terms for feminine anatomy far more than they use cuss words. Okay? It's just that the cuss word stands out and we go, oh, use the cuss word. Okay? This guy uses that word and that word and that word and that word. Overusing a word's overusing a word, I don't care. You see? You guys have heard me censor myself today. Caught myself, just like I had to hit the button, right? They got those buttons on when you're doing broadcasts where you hit the button and it bleeps you. But my whole point is this. When we're talking about words, words are so powerful. We've delved into some words. We've delved into definitions. We've delved into this. We got to make a judgment. We got to decide. Paul said, or Paul wrote this. We can look up the passage if we need to. Or you guys, please look up the passage so you're not taking my word for it, okay? Paul said, everything is permissible, but not everything's beneficial. So, if I have an issue, if every single person, if we all stumble at some point, and the tongue is the number one stumbling place, then we've got to get to the heart of the matter of what really is important. Because we can praise God and curse the man sitting next to us who's made in the image of God. And the Lord goes, that ought not to be. Now, it'll take a process. But you're worried about this word and that word and this word and this word, and I'm worried about how much you love the person sitting next to you with your mouth, with the words you put on them, with how you're speaking to them. Are you speaking life-giving words? I say, somebody will score on me in hockey, and one of the defensemen will come over and they'll go, that was my fault, my bad, and I already dropped my F-bomb, that I got scored on. And I work extremely hard at looking at that person and going, well, what did we learn? Let's not do that again. I say some kind of little phrase. I work really hard at it to uplift them because they know they made a mistake. They came over and said, man, that was my fault. That was my guy. And I go, all right, next time, just knock him down. Just take him out, man. What are you doing? And he goes, yeah, I'll get him next time. I just built that person up. Now, it's hockey. What does that mean in the grand scheme of things? Because that's an intense moment right there, okay? I've got other guys that I skate with that will go, yeah, you're an idiot, man. You should have had that guy. You're a piece of crap, And they just light him up. And then I hear, yeah, we don't like skating with that guy. He's always yelling at us, Over this last few weeks, they go, man, we just like skating with you. Because guys are skating by me, and I'm slapping them with the stick, or I'm doing different stuff, or saying stuff to them, just having a good time out there. Because that's who I am. But that's who I have to work at being from a standpoint of we can all go negative. We can all go negative. Now, my disposition is always been in my life to be a happy person. But that doesn't mean my happiness always includes the happiness of others. You can be happy all day long and still be mean to somebody else, or not think about their happiness. So what I'm saying today, and you can read, and I encourage everybody to read through this passage again, and don't just read it at face value. Grab a couple translations, read through it with a bunch of some different translations open, because you'll start to get a different, when you're in a negative mindset and you read something, you can pull the negative out of it. You ever had that? You said something to somebody, you go, what do you mean by that? How's your day going? What do you mean, how's my day going? You know how my day's going. Not having a good day. And you go, okay. I was just asking how your day was going. What's that smile mean? You're better than me? You think you figure... Dude, have you ever had these? I've had these. I'm condensing it down. It probably lasted a little bit longer than that, or maybe there was a pause or two in there, but I've had those. And I go, that's where some of these translators get their stuff. Well, we've got to tell these people about Jesus and how important it is so they don't die and go to hell. Okay, so you want them to live miserably for the next 20, 30, 50 years without a depth of relationship with Christ so they can go to heaven. Sorry, if you're not doing it here, if you're not happy here, I'm like, well, we just want to escape away. Okay. I think I read to you guys 2 weeks ago, part 4 from John, where he said, I don't pray that you take them out of this world, but I pray for you that you sustain them and keep them strong while they're here. I go, oh, so maybe that rapture idea, maybe it's a little wrong. Maybe it's didn't exist until 18-something, and maybe it's, I don't know. But more importantly, I can sit and have a debate about rapture. I can sit and have a debate about Revelation. I've done some studying in my lifetime. That's head knowledge. My heart knowledge is relationship with Christ. And let the Lord tell you what's important today. And then out of the overflow of the heart, your mouth will speak. But we've got to watch it. You're thinking about it. You brought it up. We're all thinking about it, right? Oh, man, how are my words affecting my day? How are they affecting other people's day? I have a very hard time not giving certain catchphrases that I use on a regular basis to people when I see them. Because I'm always looking to encourage or uplift or just, you know why? Because I'm a happy person and I like happy people around me. And I go, hey, how are you? I'm good. All right, man. There was, what was it today? There was one specific place we went to today. Was it just Walmart or was it the other place? We went shopping today. And there was this person, they said, oh, the cashier lady. She had to come over 2 or 3 times to help us out. You know, open up a movie, pull it out of the plastic box, and then come back because it popped up and said it was age restricted. And I'm like, because it's an action movie? I don't get it. It's got Denzel Washington in it. What are you talking about? Anyways, each time she says, okay, you guys, you're good. All right, have a nice day. I said, thank you. You have a nice day. She's like, thank you. She came back. She had to do the age thing like that. She goes, all right, you're all set. Have a good day. And I'm like, thanks. You have a great day too. And she goes, thank you. Because they don't always get that response from people. And I don't always think about it. It's such a part of me. But I've had to work at it. Because I've stood on the front porch of my house and belittled somebody to the point of tears. I've gone negative with my words to the point of impacting the soul of another person, many people. Back in my younger years, if you got on the wrong side of me, I'd light you up. I just, Not that I live that way. I'm a happy person. I've always been a happy person. But if you got on the wrong side of me, I'm going to take this logic and stuff that I've been given, and I'm going to use it for that poison, that world of poison out of the tongue. Kim, do you have something last to say?
Yeah, I just want to mention, I've noticed it's with all this politics.
Yeah.
My language is not always wonderful. And I'm more, I know this sounds really, I always never use, well, not always, but I feel like some words, and they're cuss words, is the only way I can get a message across that somebody will be willing to hear. And if you use them, you hate to use them at times, but I feel like somebody, if they don't want to hear you, the only way for them to hear you is, I mean business.
Yeah, absolutely.
And when I talk politics, that's when I get this way. That is the, I don't go to somebody and talk about God and cuss, and say, I only have 2 words, 2 things that I hate, is GD
right,
and JC.
Okay.
Jesus Christ. The rest, I don't care.
Right.
My son has called me every name you can call a woman. Negative.
Right.
When he was in
an angry state.
In his angry state, yeah. So I don't care about those words.
Right.
I don't care about them anymore. Somebody wants to call it to me, I have words that I can say back.
Right.
But I'm at a point where they don't affect me like they used to when I was younger.
Right.
When I was more prim and proper. I'm done with being prim and proper. I'm done with dealing with BS.
Exactly.
I feel like you know what? If it means to be a Christian, in quotes, and I'm going to be this little happy person, and I'm going to walk around and be positive, and I don't care no, I will tell somebody what I feel.
Right.
And if it's out of my heart, that's what's in my heart, because I'm done with BS.
Right. And really what you're talking about, And that's awesome, Kim, and I'm in full agreement. Sometimes people don't hear you until you reach a certain level of expression. And along that same lines is that conservatives in general, but Christians in particular, tend to be extremely passive and they work really hard. It's like they read the meek shall inherit the earth. They're not inheriting squat, and then they walk around still meek, and they don't even know what meek means. They don't even understand what that means. Look up the word meek. You'll be surprised. I don't have time to go into it today. But my point is that they're extremely passive. There's no depth of passion for what they really believe. But just like you guys were having the conversation beforehand, they're like, yeah, if you know, what was the example? Wreck your car or you have a bad day or something like that. Yeah, you might cuss a little bit. But just to cuss and cuss and cuss and cuss, it gets annoying. Absolutely. Absolutely. No doubt about it. Anything that starts to get repetitious or just, again, I have more problem with some words that fall into certain categories that I go, dude, can we not use, you know what I'm saying?
We have more of a vocabulary than we think.
I could give you a couple words right now as examples words that bother me more than other words. But either way, that's personal preference. Sometimes people don't hear you unless you use certain words. I said, I've mentioned this before, one guy I skate with, he says, man, you cuss more than any preacher I ever know. I said, you cuss more than any plumber I ever known. And he looked at me, and I laughed at him. And I go, it's not about how much I cuss. Do I come in and speak words of life? Do you ever hear me get negative in here? Except about stupid fake pandemics and stolen elections, yeah. But do I look at you and go, you're just a piece of garbage. You're just a rotten person. You don't live up, you should know Jesus. You're going to hell. But that's what he's experienced in his life, is that negative religious mantra over it. And he's even said to me, he says, I was doing my radio show a number of years ago, and he said, oh, I heard you got a radio show. I said, yeah, dude, we're doing this and doing that. I said, it's on, every Friday afternoon. We go down and broadcast down there. He goes, oh, don't preach at me, man. I don't like when people preach at me. I goes, you're the one who asked me about my show. If you say, how's your show going? I might tell you about my show. Then you tell me don't preach at you? And I looked right back at him and I said, dude, I have never once preached at you. And he goes, yeah, you're right, man. You're right. So I said, you asked about it. I answered you, but I've never preached at you. I said, I've always come in and smiled at you and said hello. He said, yeah, you're right. I said, let's go play some hockey. So the whole point of today, part 5, is to get us, we got to get out of this negative mindset and realize we all stumble. What are we really stumbling at? Are we stumbling at a couple cuss words? Yeah, you can work on those. Yeah, when you're around a bunch of little kids. I was walking out of the locker room the other night, and a mom and her daughter were standing there, and she's a goalie. I'm like, oh, you're a goalie. I said, get out there and kick some butt. She goes, you can say it. I don't mind. Her mom goes, no. Well, yeah. I go, kick some butt. And we all laughed. It was all a good time, Because even that censoring stuff, it tells you, I want to say something a little bit more, with a little more punch to you, but I don't know you. So I'm gonna try to be, if I knew you, hey, But if I don't know you, that's when you think about those things, okay? We start out the beginning of my podcast on Tuesdays and just tell you, hey, we're talking about politics, we're talking about this, we're talking about that, we're talking about this. We cuss on the show, okay? If you don't like cussing, I'm sorry, then don't tune in. We do try to be conscious of how much we do it, but we're as conscious about that as we are, personal attacks. If I don't know that person personally, then there's only so much. Now, if they're a political leader or something like that, you're open to fair game because you've presented yourself as a public figure. That's different. We're going to have criticisms, but we don't just, it's like, God, what's a great example? You've seen all the memes of some of our politicians, right? And their facial expressions and how some of them look really like they should be in a white coat that wraps around your back with the... Yeah, I was given the definition. And you go, that psycho is running our stuff? But if we stopped and thought about, I don't want to attack or criticize the current president's physical appearance. I want to attack his policies. I want to attack what I think is going on. Just as much as I didn't want him to attack the physical look of our previous president, who was freaking awesome. But my point is that those are the type of things where you engage and you go, well, look at that person. And the Lord goes, you're cursing them now, and they're in my image. Now, they may not be exemplifying my soul image, but that you're attacking that physical form, and that lessens you. And I go, oh, all right, okay. But if I think their policies are idiotic and stupidity, got some stupidity, then I might drop a couple F-bombs and say, this is an idiot, right? This policy is stupid. The Lord, I'll finish with this. The Lord taught me years ago with my kids, taught me a lot of things with my kids. He would say, because I'd heard the words, negative words as a kid, not from my mom necessarily, but just you hear them. And one of the words that would be spoken over a lot of kids is, oh, you're so stupid. That was dumb. Or you're dumb. That was, just laying into a kid. We've all heard it, right? And the Lord taught me very early on with my kids to say it. It took longer, but I would say, what you did was stupid. But you are not stupid, and I expect you to do better next time. Now, that takes a lot longer than just flying off the handle and go, that was stupid, you're stupid. Right?
They already knew.
But they already knew it. And I was putting the spin on it to get them to a place of, you're smarter than what you just did. I would say that sometimes as a quick response. You're smarter than what you just did. Don't do that again. All right, okay. Total different, it's a total flip. With our words. We all stumble at some point. We're all going to make mistakes. What are we doing with our words? Are we building people up? I'll tell you, when you have the real epiphany is when you're looking to praise people and build people up. I started saying it. You guys know this. Mom and Tanya for sure. I started saying this about a month and a half ago. I started saying, I'm actually really thankful for our current president. Remember me start saying it? I said, I'm actually really thankful for our current president. And they're like, because I was very frustrated and angry for a while there. And I went, no, I had to assess, make a judgment in my heart because I teach, whether I'm formally teaching up here or we're teaching on a podcast or I'm teaching one person standing next to me or just having a casual conversation. I know what I've been equipped with. And I had to make a discernment. I had to, since I'm in a teacher role, I have to judge more, right? And I went, no, Lord, you're going to work out some really cool stuff in this. And I'm seeing, the country is seeing the dynamics right now. We had this. In fact, there was a meme that I saw the other day, yesterday. So cool. It's a guy at the gas pump, cartoon, right? The gas nozzle is in the car, and the sign is in the background with all the arrows pointing up on all three, regular and medium and super. And there's no numbers, it's just arrows pointing up on all three things, right? And the guy's around the back of his car with a putty knife, scraping off his Biden sticker off the back of his car. And I'm like, thank you, Lord, because some people got on the bandwagon, and we had some really good years, and they thought, cool, we can just coast along. And this fiasco has made a lot of people wake up to go, you know what? Dino bought me the shirt the other day. It says, liberty is never more than one generation away from being how does it say it? Basically, liberty is never more than one generation away from being extinct. That's what it says, extinct.
I remember that.
Liberty is never more than one generation away from being extinct.
I went to Target yesterday.
Yes.
And you know how 9 o'clock supposedly we don't have to wear masks anymore? I don't know if you knew that last night. Our governor.
Oh, is that
said
the official?
Yeah, official. 9 o'clock. 9
Oh,
o'clock.
our governor?
Uh-huh. Did you
Oh,
know
I
that?
didn't hear that.
Oh, okay. Well, now.
July 1st is the microphone. No,
She's got it.
Okay.
July 1st is the actual final day. Oh, July 1st is the actual no mask mandate.
Yeah, so that was so I was in Target.
Okay.
And I was thinking, hear my story. So I probably didn't do what you were saying, the good example, maybe. But anyways, I walk in and they go, "Oh, do you have a mask?" I said, "No." They handed me one. I go, "Can I talk to the manager?" And I go, "I'm going to the bathroom first, though." So he came out. The guy's like 20 years old, you know.
Okay, yeah.
And so it's like, I just want you to know the only reason why I'm in here because I have a gift card. I want to use it, but I'm not going to be back. Did you know it's lifted today? Well, blah, blah, blah. He's talking like that. So then he left, and I left. I didn't put it on. This lady came up to me, this black lady, very pretty black lady, and she worked there. She goes, "You don't have to listen to him. This is not a law." And she's just taking
Oh,
off.
yeah.
Yeah.
They get
I'm
spicy.
go-
I
I
love
know, I loved it too. So she went on, and she goes, "I didn't mean to keep you." I go, "Oh, this is great." I go, "You sound like you might be a Christian." She goes, "Yeah." So I just ended up telling her about a church and everything. We got talking. It was really cool. So then I got a few things, and she was the cashier I left to. So then she talked some more.
That's
so
awesome.
it was just really cool. So maybe that was good. But
No, that
I
sounds like a
didn't-
really good.
Yeah, I mean, but I was telling him basically that this is stupid, you know. and
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, it is.
So yeah, and especially why 9 o'clock? You know what I mean? Like that's the magic time. Okay, we can.
Because it's all been facetious. It's all been BS. And if you can't get worked up about that and have a few colorful words,
The other thing was kind of stupid too. This is like you can't try things on still at Target.
Right.
I go, "Do you know every other store you can? It's actually safer if we're gonna go along with safe to try it there. They could take it back. I could take it home. Have 10 people try it on. You're gonna bring it back. It doesn't make sense.
well, that's because common sense, isn't it? So again, and that's what I'm trying to get to at this whole series is realizing words. Okay? When people say, well, you know, you have to, what is it, social I've broken down a whole bunch of these, right? Lockdown. That's a prison term.
Yes, it is.
That is an absolute prison term. Okay? But we all accepted it, this COVID lockdown. I go, does nobody realize the origin of this word? So they just sling this word out, and then we're using the word, and well, since the lockdown, I'm going, that's a prison term. That is a straight up, they don't use that term anywhere else other than in prison, but now it's entered our vernacular as just something we have to do when there's a health emergency. We just go ahead and prison lockdown. And because we're not wordsmiths or at least well educated. It should have been all over the place where we all just went, I'm not in prison and I refuse to lock down like I'm in prison. If they'd have done that en masse. As usual, it took people a long time to finally get the momentum going to where they stood up and said, okay, I'm not doing, we're not taking this anymore. That's the real pushback. They're not lifting these mask mandates because they want to. They're not even lifting the mask mandate because there's no science behind it and there's no justification for it. They're lifting it because people are saying no en masse. That's why. And they're saying, I'm not doing this. But we can have more of that discussion when we have the podcast. And I will say this story. I had a great one too. I was coming out of our friend's store. Our buddy owns a store. He's actually, we're in discussions about his sponsoring the show. Yeah, the podcast, not the Sunday service. Anyways, I'm coming out of there, and I have my hands full, and this red car pulls into the parking lot as I'm walking, and I stopped, and I waved him on, and I've got stuff here and stuff here. And I go, go like that. And they're like, they shook their head at me. They're like, no, go. And I'm like, okay. And I walk over and I put the stuff in the car real quick and I turned like that. And she goes, you people are so nice in this area around here. And I was like, well, thank you. It was a young black couple. And it was the young lady who was talking to me. She said, you are so nice. She goes, in fact, the white people around here are so nice. We gotta have to move closer to this. And he's over there nodding. He's like, yeah. And I said, honestly, because speaking for myself, but I said, most of the people I know, we don't care what color your skin is. We want to know if you're a good person. If you're a good person, then you're good with me. She stuck her hand out and shook my hand. And I did we did the quick shake, and then it kind of fell apart. She goes, no, give me your hand. And we did the shake, we did all, yeah. She's like, you're just so nice. She goes, it's refreshing out here. There's a lot of nice people. I said, well, that's because we just assume we take you as a person, not as a color or a demographic. She's like, right on. And as I'm doing that, somehow I pulled my keys out and my work pocket knife popped off. I didn't notice. And this other lady had picked it up and she brought it over. She goes, sir, you dropped your knife. She hands me my pocket knife. I said, thank you. And this lady in the car, she goes, see what I'm talking about? Y'all too nice around here. I love you people. This is great. This is great. I'm like, well, you guys have an awesome day. She's like, you have an awesome day too. And they parked and went in the store and did their thing. And it was just like, that's what I'm talking about. That's real connection with people. That's the stuff. And you look to, when I say I don't care about the color of your skin, but I do because there's a history there. I got one buddy. He's olive skin. He's from his origins are from the islands. So he's got that. He's not black. He's an islander. Whatever the heck that is. Caribbean. Yeah, something like that. Yeah, Caribbean. You know what I'm talking about. Doc. No, Doc.
Oh, Doc, yes.
And he's got this beautiful complexion, and I love him. And he's a wonderful guy. But then, so I don't care about his complexion on that level. Just a great person. But on the other level, I do care because you know what? He's talked to me about Carnival. He's talked to me about these other things that he's connected with because of his heritage. And your outward appearance ties back to that. Kim?
I just want to mention I took my two little girls that I take to church, and they brought a friend.
Okay.
Sky. And she's black. And so we're in the car leaving.
Yes.
And I said, so, Sky, did you have a good time? And she said, yes, I did. And one of the girls go, yeah, they didn't care what color she was. And I said, yeah, we don't care what color you are. I said, Sky, it's not about color. It's about who you are.
It's about who you are.
And so these are first and second graders.
Right.
And, they're teaching the new critical race theory
Of
at
course.
school. And so she just had a great time because most of the people there are white. We're in Brighton.
Right.
The church is in Brighton. It doesn't matter.
Right.
We could care less. There could be blacks that go there. We don't care what color you are.
It's just people.
It's people. That's right.
And
go
ahead.
Was just sweet.
It
to
is.
talk about it with these kids, and she said she had a great time.
Right.
And I hope she wants to go again.
Absolutely.
Because I'll take her.
Absolutely. And again, I'm going to finish with this. We'll wrap it up. That's my point with this. They're trying to divide us right now. They're trying to come up with this and this, mask wearers and non-mask wearers and vaccines, people who take the vaccine and people who don't. They're trying to cause division there. They're trying to cause race wars with black people and white people. And they keep putting up this wall. The Asians suffered another attack from these white people. And you zoom in on the video, it's a black guy. And you go, what the hell are you talking about? They're trying to cause a division. And I go, what am I personally doing to create unity around me? Loving on people, speaking life-giving words over them. Do I use some cuss words in there? Yeah, but they're not directed at cursing somebody. They're directed at, that's part of my vernacular. I was raised around ruffians. So guess what? I got a little rough edges. We all stumble at some point. But I'd rather periodically have a little stumble with a cuss word, if I even call it that, because no man can tame the tongue. I go,
I was going to say something else, no microphone, but I was just going to say, Christians can be more
divisive.
divisive and
Yes.
decisive.
Yeah.
Divisive. Are you Christian enough, or are you
Oh, yeah.
not Christian?
Oh, it's a whole game of
Yes.
how much. Well, how can I be even more pious than you?
Yeah,
Sorry,
I did this
you'll get an
today.
F-bomb on that.
I did this today. Guess what? It doesn't matter what you do. What's in, what?
Yeah.
It's what's in your heart. How are you treating people? How are
Right.
you loving on others? How are you giving? You may not have money, but how do you give?
The religion that God holds as pure and sacred is to look after orphans and widows in their distress. Not, I don't smoke and drink and cuss anymore. And I wear a suit now when I go to church. Okay. Well, I've literally taken people in off the street, housed them, fed them. Okay. I had somebody that was a friend of mine for a while that we've had a good falling out, mainly on his part. I would take full responsibility if it was on my part, but it wasn't. Sent me a nasty text message a few months ago. Called me said I was well, no, this is my whole point. Said that I was a narcissist and a manipulator, and that me cooking meals out here in the man cave for him specifically was another form of manipulation. And I went, okay, buddy. I guess if you think that me not being comfortable if somebody comes into my house, my man cave, and I don't want to, I am more, I don't get offended, but, I get offended, but not very much, and not in this respect. I'm more bothered if somebody goes out of here hungry than I am. I love to cook. We had Mother's Day here. Mom says, I want your stir fry. Okay, Mom. I cooked up, everybody, they were pushing plates away because I made twice as much as everybody needed. And as far as I heard the good testimony on it, it was really good. How was it, Ma?
Really good.
Oh, all right. So, but that's where other people's perspectives come in. And we've got to watch our words. What it made me do is I pray more and more for this person. I was already praying for him, but I'm like, dude, if you're accusing me, I don't know. I guess you don't have any mirrors in your house, but there it is. Words part 5. So next week we'll finish up before I go on my fishing trip vacation. So we won't have service on the, what is that, 27th? Yeah, Memorial Weekend. People have got stuff to do anyways. But then after that, I'm meditating on what we're going to do from there. You guys enjoying this? Sure? Am I upsetting the apple cart too much? I hope you pick up the apples.
Hey, you know what I love is to be able to agree to disagree on certain.
Absolutely.
That's what life's about. Politics, I'm sorry, I can't. I can agree to disagree, but there are some things I want to survive. I don't want to be in a concentration camp.
Right. Right. All right, Mom, you can hit the, we'll go ahead and do that. You can hit the, over on the broadcast, you pull down that window, the 2 that are checked. If you click on them, they will stop broadcasting and we'll be good to go. Do we have anybody in chat that we needed to say hi to or no? Okay. Are you using the right one? It might be on a different screen. I appreciate you working on